Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, Jackie Kashian here. You're listening to The Dork Forest. You know the websites, dorkforest.com, thedorkforest.com if you like a determiner. JackieKashian.com has everything. Both of my podcasts, all of the stand-up stuff, the new album, links to YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the things. But so, I think, does dorkforest.com, where you can look at old videos of different shows. Anyway, if you want to support the show, tell people about the show, review it on iTunes, thumbs it up on Pandora or Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. I appreciate that. You can donate. You can donate monthly. PayPal lets you do that. You can also do my Venmo if you like. It's at Jackie Kashian, absolutely everywhere. And my email address is jackie@jackiekashian.com, and that's what the PayPal is. The PayPal link is on jackiekashian.com and dorkforest.com. And go to any of them. Thanks for listening. There's merch. There's stand-up, there's tour guide, you can find out where I'm touring. This is getting long, so let's get into the show. Hi, Jackie Kashian here. I'm in my garage. Finally, I don't know what the hell it took so long, Tess Barker. I have no idea why. But from lady to lady, did a limited run on the Britney Spears thing called Toxic. These links will be in that. You can find them all in the notes. And if you go to her Twitter or Instagram, it'll probably be in the bio, a pinned tweet. It's at Testify Barker, because it's Tess Barker, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program, Tess.
Thanks for having me, Jackie.
All right. I just did lady to lady, and
Yes,
we
you
were
did.
ladies together.
You loved it?
I loved it. It was super fun. Your dorkdom is so funny because I just talked to my brother, and he was just talking. My brother, he loves theater. And you
Really?
are going to be talking about musicals. And he had a fun fact about a movie of one of your listed musicals, because musical theater is something I like, but I don't know enough about. But I do. And I love that you love it. And I made you pick 5 of your favorites, which is not
Which
a
was
bad
hard.
idea. Yes. What makes you like musical theater besides how great it is?
I mean, besides the fact that it's like the beautiful, amazing American art form that revolutionized the way we tell stories.
Yes, exactly.
I honestly, probably musicals have been the most consistent thing in my life, period. My parents both really love musicals. Some of my earliest memories are like listening to my mom's old Guys and Dolls vinyl, with big headphones on, sitting by the stereo. And then I grew up in the suburbs of LA. So that was like the biggest treat that my parents would give me is a couple times a year. I would paint my nails and put on a dress, and we would go down to the Amundsen and see Anthony Mercatz. So,
oh my gosh, that is awesome. That is, that's right. I forget that you grew up here, which is amazing. I can't tell can you hear that from my computer? Did you hear a boop? A beep bop boop? Oh, good. Then maybe it's a beep bop boop that's just happening somewhere else. Anyway, so I forget that you grew up here, and growing up in Los Angeles sounds both kind of trying and kind of the greatest thing in the world, because you're so close to like showbiz, and you're like, I'm watching people that are no better than I am do things. I bet you I could do that. And which is kind of great to inspire, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever want to do musical theater?
I did do musical theater, and I was a child actor.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had like a very bizarre childhood. That's why I think, like I said, musicals were kind of this really like stabilizing force in my life. I still find them very comforting. Like after Donald Trump got elected, all I could do was listen to musicals.
Fair enough.
They're very like grilled cheese for me. So a lot of my childhood was spent like doing my homework in the car on the way to an audition, or
my gosh,
you're in second grade, that whole thing.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And so let's I love musicals because my stepmother loved them so, but we didn't have any of the soundtracks. And there were a couple of them. She was like, this one ends sadly. And so I never saw the end of them. Like I never saw the end of West Side Story. I've never seen the end of The King and I.
The King and I, by the way, does not, and I'll see anything. That show does not hold up. Very racist. Nothing to do about it.
Oh, nothing to do about it. It just doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that'll happen. It turns out society will change.
Yeah.
And So everybody was doing their best, and their best was mediocre. And,
exactly.
And because the thing is if South Pacific, for example, you have to be carefully taught.
Yes.
That some of those scenes feel super racially insensitive, but they also kind of feel accurate,
Yes, exactly. And I think like a show like that, when you look at it in context, it's like, of course, if that was written out, it would be problematic. But when you look at it in context, what it's saying at its heart is not, I don't think, super problematic. And there was, of course, like a big controversy when the new West Side Story movie came out.
Was there?
Yeah, because, none of the writers were Puerto Rican. And
really?
Yeah. No, West Side Story, 2 white guys.
They didn't even get Lin-Manuel Miranda? That would have been, that would have made so much. Who did it? Was it Spielberg? Was it Lucas? Who was it?
Oh, I actually don't know. So Tony Kushner wrote the book, who wrote Angels in America, amazing playwright. He wrote the book for this new incarnation, which is gorgeous. I'm obsessed with it. But the original stage play the lyrics were it was Stephen Sondheim's first show.
Right.
So baby Stephen Sondheim. And then Leonard Bernstein wrote the music, and the book was by, I actually don't know who wrote the original book, but the characters in the original incarnation were not like, they didn't have a lot of dimension. They were kind of like stereotypes of Puerto Rican people. But in that show, in further incarnations of it, they really have, they put much more that's actually in Spanish. They fleshed out the characters in the movie a lot more. So I do think they kind of like updated.
Oh, production to production, they changed it?
Yes.
After. And then who decided that they wanted to do the new, I haven't seen the new West Side Story, but who?
It's Steven Spielberg.
It is Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yes.
Is it shot for shot like the original movie?
It's not shot for shot, but it definitely maintains the integrity of the original. Like if you love the original, I think you're going to love this one. Mm-hmm. And the original movie, did you see the original movie?
Not the end of it. Yes, but yes.
Oh, yes,
most
that's
of it.
Right. That's right.
I've never seen the end of Romeo and Juliet either.
No, they grow old together and they live in a cabin in the woods. Just how that one is.
Awesome. Great.
But the original is, I think, everything we think of when we think of like old timey Hollywood movies that are just eye candy and beautiful. And because you have Steven Spielberg handling the material, you definitely have that experience of like, I'm at a motherfucking movie right now.
Right. Yeah. Because he'll do like the rising sun. It has that sort of that wash of the golden hour over it.
Yes.
Kind of like The Outsiders or, and but that was Coppola. But that's fascinating. So on your list of favorite shows is one that I've never seen, but I've heard of, and I know the story a little bit, which is Gypsy.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So it was a play and then it was a movie. Did you see it? Have you seen productions of it on the stage?
I've seen productions of it. I've been in a production of it.
Who did you, I won't know, but who did you play?
I played one of the strippers. It's actually a musical about strippers, and I played Tessie Tora.
Is it?
Which actually I was on my run this morning, and it's funny we were talking about Twitter handles, because I was like, I wish my Twitter handle was Tessie Tora. Because that's the name of a stripper in Gypsy. Yeah.
Right. Is it Tessie Tora?
Yeah.
Tessytora, essentially?
I think that's how it's spelled. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's how it sounds. And that would be actually pretty awesome, because then everyone would know that you love musicals.
Exactly.
So Gypsy is about strippers?
Sort of. So it's based on a real person.
Okay.
It's based on a real, I guess she was technically a burlesque dancer named Gypsy Rose Lee.
Okay.
And it was based on, I think, a Vanity Fair article about her. And her whole thing was that she was like this, she was a stripper, but she never actually showed you anything. So she was very artful in her striptease, and it was like very erotic, but she always had like, strategically placed curtain here or there. So it was like funny and sexy. And she was sort of like the first classy stripper.
Okay. And so burlesque coming from more of a sort of erotic dance kind of thing than anything.
Yes.
Okay.
So the show is about, but the show, really the protagonist of the show is not her, it's her mother.
Oh.
Yeah. So she got her start, at least I only really know the version according to the stage show, but she got her start on vaudeville with her little sister, sort of doing that whole song and dance as a kid, and then grew up to sort of go into burlesque and burlesque dancing.
Okay.
But, in the show, there's this stage mother. That's the one that's pushing them to do all of that. And it's really her story. And it's about,
Right. It's the story of the mom. Yeah.
Exactly. And like, I want to say it was first produced in 1959.
Okay.
And it's this like incredibly nuanced, interesting, totally dimensional female character who's like terrible, but you love her and she's heartbreaking and hilarious. And it's incredible.
Wow. And what are the great songs? Like, do I know any? Did the songs like "One Night in Bangkok" that became very popular?
Yeah.
From
Chess.
From Chess, yes.
Which, do you know who wrote Chess?
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Good guess. It's from that era. Chess was written by the guys from ABBA.
That's it, right? But wasn't he involved? Because I saw Chess in London. Yes,
I love that show.
See, that's the thing about musicals. Everyone who loves musicals is like, no, Chess is better than it has any. Nobody thinks Chess is interesting. Chess is fascinating.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some great duets in Chess.
Great. The mountain duet itself is a beautiful. Andy will sometimes sing, "This is the one situation," like when he just drops something. Like just as a joke, and it's kind of perfect timing every time he does it. Because one of our first dates, we went and saw a production of Chess in Silver Lake, really near an overpass in a black box theater. I don't know how they did it, because when I saw it in London, they had a rotate. It was huge. The production was in '89. And it was a huge production in Silver Lake in 2004. It was much smaller.
I live for that shit.
But they did an amazing job. It was really still very good, and it had a different ending. I think with Chess, you get to pick like different. You can pick who goes with who.
Really?
Like what? Yeah, Lady and the Tiger wise.
No
like,
kidding.
Yeah,
so
like what?
Florence and Svetlana. There's the American woman and the Russian woman.
Mm-hmm. Does he go back to his wife? Does he throw the game? Does he not throw the game? Does he?
Yeah.
And does he ever get back with the American?
I in my memory, he never did. I did not know that there was like a choose your own adventure.
Yeah, a little bit of a choose your own adventure vibe to the end of it.
Wow.
But yeah. So what are the great songs in Gypsy though?
Okay, so Gypsy, there's not. I'm trying to. Okay, well, there's when they're kids, the big song that she sings like before, when she's a child on there is "Let Me Entertain You."
Oh my God, I know that song.
You know that one? Okay,
yeah.
And then "Everything's Coming Up Roses." Do you know that song? Yeah,
yep.
That's the big like 11 o'clock number that the mom sings.
Send in the Clowns?
Okay, no, but that is
okay.
I have so much to say about Send in the Clowns.
Where is that from?
That is from a show called A Little Night Music. And that's a Stephen Sondheim show. And I was thinking about Sondheim. I'm always thinking about Stephen Sondheim, but that that song, you know, is so fascinating to me because to me, that's like, I mean, Sondheim's most famous like crossover song, but you'll hear like Frank Sinatra cover that song or Barbra Streisand, and it's like beautiful, right? But that's not how that song is supposed to be sung. When you go see a production of A Little Night Music, or if you Google like Dame Judi Dench singing the song or something, Sondheim intentionally put that song in a key that would be really difficult for the actress to sing.
Yeah.
So it's not supposed to be this like beautiful, buttery Barbra Streisand, Frank Sinatra. You're supposed to sound like you're having a nervous breakdown while you sing it.
Oh.
And when you see an actress, and it's such a vulnerable thing for someone who's a good singer to let themselves sound like that. But when you see an actress really nail it, it gives me chills every time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the name of that one, what's the name of that play?
A Little Night Music.
Okay. I haven't seen enough Sondheim. Well, I mean, I think not seeing all of it is not saying enough for Sondheim people. So it's who wrote so Gypsy. Gypsy, it's just about Gypsy's mom essentially being a horrible stage mom, but also living the dream. And yeah,
like the first act is them is her with the two daughters when they're kids, and then second act the daughter is now an adult, like super famous burlesque dancer. So in theory, the mom's dreams have come true. You know, this child star who she's trying to nurture is actually she tries to nurture the other girl who doesn't become successful. But
you got to guess. You got to put your red or black.
Exactly.
You got to pick.
So one of her roulette numbers paid off. But then the one daughter becomes super successful, and then the mom is very resentful, and it kind of ends up their whole relationship. So that's sort of what the second act is about.
That is, and it sounds like it ends sad.
Kind of, but they sort of reconcile.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
there's
want them
sadder
to
ones.
reconcile. There's sadder ones. There's also happier ones. I mean, I have a hard time with like, My Fair Lady is annoying, and speaking of things that don't necessarily hold up.
The Rhine and Spine.
Yes. And the is it Carousel? It might be Carousel, which is the saddest.
Yeah.
And then Oklahoma, if it didn't have that scene in it where Judd is horrible, I think I would love that movie.
And they have the Dream Ballet in Oklahoma, which is controversial. A lot of people hate the Dream Ballet.
Oh, the Dream Ballet was okay. It was a good time to go get a glass of milk or something, or some Kool-Aid when I was a kid. It was, if I was a ballet person, I'd be psyched that it was in there, right?
Yeah.
Because it was different actors. It was actually, it was sort of like when you watch a Gene Kelly.
Exactly. And I'm like such a Gene Kelly fan, and it was kind of breaking form a little bit. Okay, so also just one of the reasons I chose Gypsy, and I'm always trying to bring it back to Stephen Sondheim, is because, I mean, one thing that I find so fascinating about musical theater is it's really like this tiny group of people. First of all, like I said, it's a very American art form.
Yeah.
It's like we really are the country that invented musical theater. It's American opera, essentially. But only and musicals are so difficult to write and take so long to develop and require people to put so much money into them that only a small handful of people really in the history of American musicals has ever written musicals.
Right. There's literally, I mean, I think it's like, how many musicals do you think there are? 30? 100?
Oh, I mean, hundreds.
I mean, there's hundreds, but I mean, like the ones that are iconic or like the ones that made money.
Okay, the ones that made money. Yeah. Probably 30. Probably. And 20 of those are Disney movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the way that Stephen Sondheim came about is, as a musical theater writer, he had a terrible childhood. His mom was like super shitty to him and super abusive, but his mom was good friends with Oscar Hammerstein, who at the time, he and his partner were like kind of running the monopoly on musicals. They did South Pacific and Oklahoma and all these shows.
Right.
So Hammerstein takes in Sondheim and becomes kind of like a surrogate dad to him.
Right.
And so that kind of like shitty childhood is essentially the genesis of American musical theater. Like that changes musical theater forever, because once Sondheim gets in the game, the form changes completely.
Like the baton goes from Hammerstein to Sondheim, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Hammerstein hooks Sondheim up with Leonard Bernstein, and they write West Side Story together. Like the guy's first show is West Side Story.
Oh my God. That's insane. I mean, I suppose though the source material, Romeo and Juliet, is amazing.
Yes.
But Sondheim, literally the one Sondheim that I can remember. Wait, did he do Sweeney Todd?
Yes.
Okay, so I know that, but when I did childcare for a decade, and when I first moved to Los Angeles, and the kid that I babysat for was just a giant theater nerd, and she would have these. I thought they were bootleg, but I think that they were she had bought them legitimately, but they were VHS tapes of Broadway shows.
Mm-hmm.
And there was Into the Woods with Bernadette Peters.
Mm-hmm.
And we must have watched that a dozen times. And I was like, well, this is hilarious. This is so smart and funny. And I don't remember if West Side Story has that. Because when I think of him, when I think of Sondheim, I think of sort of a sarcasm, just the writing seems to be really smartly funny and dark.
Yes, that's Sondheim to a T. But he's not always funny.
Okay.
He's always smart. He's always beautiful. And
is he always dark?
I'm trying. Sometimes bittersweet, if you want to count that as dark.
Okay, I don't know.
We'll get to with Company, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
So West Side Story comes out, and then Gypsy. And what's remarkable about these two shows is that Sondheim is a lyricist, and after that he writes his own music and his own lyrics. So with these two shows, you're kind of getting to hear Stephen Sondheim become Stephen Sondheim.
With them together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And just the way that he knows how to put a word on top of music and marry them together. Like you think about West Side Story, like Maria, like he's so cognizant of the way the vowel is going to sit on the thing. And what really I think is so typical Sondheim is he writes the way the character is actually feeling.
Okay.
Like I was saying about Send in the Clowns, like he comes from a very emotive place. And I think, so I think that's the lyrics in Gypsy are just incredible and very funny.
Okay.
Very funny, very clever. You have a lot of that fun wordplay and just.
Okay. Yeah. And he did the lyrics for that, but not the music. Okay. Yes. And what about Jesus Christ Superstar, the next on, which was, by the way, I credit Jesus Christ Superstar as my religious experience.
Me too.
Really?
Yes.
Like it's finally, Jesus made sense.
Yes,
it finally made. I was 12, 13 years old. My mother had the album, and I listened to it all. I would cry when he died,
yes.
And I'd be like, "Oh, but he's coming back." And
so, I mean, I think it made the teachings of Jesus like accessible to me because I was raised Catholic, but I never connected to what I was hearing in church.
Right. It's there can be no harder job than to be a priest or a pastor or someone who's trying to teach people about a spiritual experience and about spiritual teachers like Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And there's no way. I mean, you have to be really good at it. Who wrote Jesus Christ Superstar?
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
There we go. And and he kind of stuck the landing on it. And
1,000%.
Have you seen a live production of that?
Yes, ever? I've seen several Jesus Christ Superstars. I try to see it if I have the chance. I try to see it because that show. There's so much that I love about that show. Like that's the show that I put on when I need to clean my house. Like I find it so energizing.
And it's at least 4 of those songs are on my constant rotation. Like when Pilate talks to Jesus. Mm-hmm. That's on my rotation. When Pilate has the dream, I used to listen to starting over song.
Mm-hmm.
Can we start over? But it was actually a downer. And ever since 2016, no downers. No downers.
That's fair.
Yeah, I need
Superstar. Another kind of sad ending, apparently.
Yeah.
I can't feel that guy. But well, then what's so remarkable? I mean, that show faced obviously a ton of controversy when it opened on Broadway. And
right. Everybody was like heretics and all these things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And also as much as I did totally kind of glean, I think, some of the legitimate teachings of Jesus from it, I think what the show is also really saying is Jesus was a pretty cool guy. Religion has some issues.
Well, and the politics around all of it and the things that were coming when he was just like, I'm just trying to get everyone to realize that they are enough. Yes. And it's all of that. And I remember the Mary Magdalene song. One of my roommates in college at the co-op that I lived in, which was like a dorm, was from mainland China. And was she from mainland? She might have been, I think. Yeah. And very religious. And I would listen to that. She was like, that song is so beautiful. What is it about? Where is it from? And I was like, oh, it's Jesus Christ Superstar. She was like, well, do you have the lyrics? And she was so furious about that song. She was like, Mary Magdalene shouldn't have sexual and I was like, people are people. I can't, I don't know what to tell you. I'm 19. You're 19. What are you, nuts? And so but yeah, it was truly powerful.
Oh yeah. And I mean, what it's so cool about that show too is it's really told from Judas's point of view. That's another like very irreverent thing about it is it's told from Judas's point of view. Judas was Black in a lot of productions.
Yep.
Very smart casting, very interesting casting. And that I think sort of turned theater on its head too. Cause that started to usher in the era of like the rock musical. You know, I think around the same time we had Tommy, which is,
I accidentally saw that movie.
Could anything make less sense?
It didn't. I was like, I think I need to be on acid to see this because I don't care. And I once did a 1/4 of a hit of acid. It was, my spine melted. I didn't like it, but then when I sobered up, I was like, where's the rest of it? So, I might have a problem. So,
Just as long as you don't wake up swimming in baked beans, you should be all right.
Oh, what is that?
That's from Tommy. There's a whole weird scene.
Oh,
I
right.
think it's the Acid Queen scene.
I think I have blocked that.
As you should. As you should.
Yeah.
But no, Jesus Christ Superstar. And then another thing. Did you see Hamilton? Or are you familiar with Hamilton?
Oh, so many times.
Okay,
Yes.
great. I think Jesus Christ. I think the two shows that most we can thank for Hamilton are Jesus Christ Superstar and Les Miserables.
Oh, okay.
Because Hamilton, is told from Burr's point of view. And I think that's really Lin-Manuel kind of like nodding to Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, okay. That makes sense because it wouldn't, because Hamilton's point of view, because I've read some histories of Hamilton and I always liked Burr better. And Hamilton's and the Manuel Miranda's version of Burr also humanizes Burr in a way that you're like, well, they're all arrogant. They're all out of there. I mean, founding fathers, by definition, are going to be very, very certain that they are correct to their own detriment. Yes. And so what was it was that one and Les Mis, which I've never seen.
That surprises me, Jackie.
I know, because they're miserable. Are they miserable?
Yeah. But here's the kind of musical theater fan I am, and I don't know if this is just me, but like almost like the sadder the show is, the happier it makes me.
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
some people have that with horror. They're like, the scarier it is, the less scared I am, is what I've had from horror fans.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So Les Mis is the French Revolution, right?
No, I always thought it was the French Revolution, but it's actually about, and I just learned this like 2 years ago, it's about like a smaller conflict that occurred, I think like 15 years before the French Revolution, but it's sort of about the seeds of the French Revolution.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
So not 1795, but like 1775?
Yeah.
Okay. It was right after, because here's the thing about Hamilton is that Hamilton got the French government to support the United States, the revolution in the United States, draining their money. So Lafayette got them to give all of their money to us, which in some opinion, caused the French Revolution, caused the following 100 years that France could not get out of debt.
And we were not there for them at all.
At all until 1914 or and it was a little late. Yeah. And then we made fun of them all after World War II. Yeah. So
and in 2001, and really the hits just keep on coming.
Yeah, the hits keep coming. Hits keep coming. So so Les Mis is before that, and it's just about the poverty. What is it about?
It's sort of about,
Who are the people in Les Mis?
What I love about Les Mis is that it's from this period in the early 90s where, like, I guess we still just had fuck you money. Like, shows were big and expensive and ridiculous and had casts of like 150 people.
The roller skating one.
A Starlight Express.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, like it was not Godspell. Like we were here for a spectacle. And so Les Mis is primarily a spectacle. It's like, if you want to see 150 people sing in harmony on stage while doing choreo, while the stage spins around, Les Mis.
That is go for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it centers, I mean, I guess I would say the main character is a character named Jean Valjean, and he is in prison for stealing a loaf of bread to feed his family.
Okay.
Escapes from prison, and it's kind of like Hamilton in that there's two characters kind of going after each other. So he's hunted down by this cop who's like obsessed with trying to get him, basically.
Right.
And when all he ever did was steal a loaf of bread, but after escaping prison, he's kind of like has this religious, Jean Valjean has this religious experience where he wants to live his life as a good person. So he's sort of tormented. Do I tell people who my real identity is, or do I go on and just be a good person?
Okay.
And use my life to help other people. So that's sort of I guess human, but then there's so many other characters. There's a mom who's in sex work who dies and then leaves her daughter to Jean Valjean. There's that daughter it's an epic. That daughter grows up. And then there's another character who's like this really tormented soul, who's kind of a tomboy, who's in love with the guy that girl ends up marrying. So it's just very like epic, spans many, many years.
It's okay. So it's All right, the winds of war. Whatever. It's like generational.
Yes.
Is it more than one generation kind of situation? Is it?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And okay. Yeah, this may not be for me.
But I feel like I'm not selling it. Like,
you're like, you might love it. What are the great songs in Les Mis? Are there great songs?
Oh, it's all great songs.
Yeah.
There's a really great song called The Dream I Dreamed, which is sung by the sex working mom.
Okay.
And it's about how when she was young, she thought life was going to be amazing, but then this man breaks her heart and ruins her outlook on life. But it's gorgeous ballad. One day, I'm sure you heard like One Day More.
I'm sure I have. Sadly, I don't think I can't actually. I will. What I will do after this is I will listen to the soundtrack to Les Mis.
Okay, great.
And that will be good. And then I will have gotten, because the thing is like I listened to Hamilton for 2 years before I got to see it. And I remember, I will never forget Emily Heller telling me in that first year, I was so into it. She was like, isn't it great? I'm going to go see it next in a month in New York. And I was like, how did you get tickets? And she said, I'm rich, Jackie. And, and I was like, well, I love your honesty. And she was like, yeah, I have a writing job, Jackie. I'm fine. And I was like, oh my God, yes. Because it cost $1,600.
Yeah.
It was like $1 million to go see this thing. And then she had to fly there and put herself up. And so it was a project. It was a thing. And then when I finally did see it, Hamilton, it was a delight. I saw it at the Pantages, and I had seen it we had to buy season tickets to see it. So we saw the whole run. I saw a very weird musical version of that Whitney Houston song, which I think is a Dolly Parton song.
Babs and I got tickets we did the exact same thing. Saw the exact same shows. The Bodyguard musical.
That's it.
I thought that was so fun.
It was partially really fun, and partially they seemed serious about it. And I wanted them to be a little more campy about it and a little more, because I think the movie was a little more campy.
Yeah, I think I might have seen it with an audience that was in on the campiness of it. I think I saw it with a good audience because everyone was laughing, cheering. When she sang the final "I Will Always Love You" finale, people were standing and yelling and dancing, and
that was actually really fun too. Because at the end of it, there was a sing along and there was all this. It was super fun. Yeah. By the way, I am talking with Tess Barker, and Tess Barker's Twitter and Instagram and all that is Testify. No, yes, it is. Testify Barker. And Lady to Lady is a podcast that I was just on. The Toxic is a limited series run that was about the Britney Spears thing. You guys helped bring out the awareness that got her thing to pass. So she now is in control of her own money, and she can do whatever the fuck she wants to do with it. Amen. She can light it all on fire. Do you know why? Because it's hers. Do whatever you want, lady. Anyway, so burn it to the ground. Do whatever you need to do. You're an adult human. Okay. So but yeah, so I will listen to that. Now, this one, The Secret Garden, is a book that I read.
Yes. I chose this one because it's one that I personally love, but I think it's a more obscure show that I would like to bring awareness to.
There we go. Let's bring it out there for the Rangers. Yes.
And it's one that I think have a personal connection to because I saw it. There used to be a theater in LA called the Schubert.
Right.
That was like in Century. You remember the Schubert?
Yeah.
That's where I saw The Secret. And I remember it being like a really nice theater.
Yeah. Where was it?
It was in Century City.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if it would have just held out just like another 10 years, that whole area got gentrified within an inch of its, like Culver City isn't too far away.
Yeah.
To have gotten, that's too bad that
it showed up.
I wonder where it is. What is the building still there?
I think it's like a mall now, but that was before, like when I was a kid, we never saw stuff at the Pantages. It was always either the Amundsen or the Schubert.
Oh, fair enough.
So The Secret Garden also was a book that I loved as a child, was obsessed with that book.
Yep.
What a gorgeous, like, beautiful piece of fiction to just want to live in.
It's so beautiful. It's just magical. It's sort of like when you go through the thing on Narnia, when the Wizard of Oz turns into color. Pardon me while I gesture wildly and knock my laptop. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's such a great fantasy, right? Like, I don't know why, but it's so enticing, this idea of like there's a garden no one else knows about and it's a labyrinth and you get to go into it. So I think this show brings to life everything that's so wonderful and magical about that book and just captures the tone perfectly.
Who wrote the book? I mean the song and music.
It was written by two women, actually. Lucy Lortel, I think, is the composer's name, and oh gosh, I'm gonna blank on
the lyrics.
Yeah. But it was written by two women, and who I think one of them went on to write the Dr. Zhivago musical like 10 years later, because that's write a musical. But the score is just like gorgeous. Like it's these really haunting, beautiful kind of harmonies that you feel like you're like literally listening to ghosts on the English moor. Like it's the sound, it's like oral fog. It's just like, it's beautiful. And I'm a huge Mandy Patinkin fan.
Okay.
And he's on the original Broadway cast recording. And to me, like, there's almost no sound on this earth more beautiful than like Mandy Patinkin's voice. And so this is just like Mandy being Mandy. Like he has all these beautiful kind of like operatic moments and this incredible duet called Lily's Eyes. Mandy plays the uncle.
Okay.
What is there? Two uncles? Anyway, they're both in love with the guy Colin, who the mom died. Yeah, so they're both in love with that woman who died, and and Lily's the woman who died. And there's this beautiful duet called Lily's Eyes. That's Mandy Patinkin and John Cameron Mitchell, who went on to write Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
That's right. I was thinking, I thought it had a Hedwig connection. I couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah. So just and also as an adult, I have befriended the woman who played Mary and was the youngest person to ever win a Tony. So I got to shout Daisy Egan out.
Our lives are amazing. Everyone has like some weird story where they're like, well, I knew the guy that invented like plastic wrap. And you're like, what? Like my dad knew the guy who invented putting plastic wrap over dry cleaning.
Really?
Yes.
And those are the richest people, right? Like you meet someone really rich and you're like, what do you do? Is it liquor? And they're like, oh no, I make the little button that goes on top of other buttons.
Right. And it turns out I have a castle. And right. It's so weird. Now, the weird thing about Hedwig is that for my anniversary one time, Andy and I went to New York and he wanted to go see theater on our anniversary. And we got to see Hedwig at the Angry Inch with the original. It was a return of the original guy who was first in it. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. And then we saw it here and the production, it's so interesting to see these productions, different people doing those roles and those interpretations and how much it can add to, the written word. It's a little bit like I just watched some woman lip sync one of my bits on TikTok and I was like, I see what you're doing with your face and I don't mind it. It's kind of interesting, kind of like it's another way of getting a glimpse into the material.
That's what I think is so sexy about theater is like, it's the most, and then what I love so much about stand-up too, like obviously live performance has that incredible immediacy and, a joke that you tell tomorrow night is not going to be the same as you tell it on Friday night. It's always going to be kind of this living, breathing piece. Mm-hmm. And that's so the case with theater. Like a piece can have a life, so many different incarnations, and you can set Jesus Christ Superstar on Mars if you want, and cast Ben Affleck, like there's so many different ways that you can interpret this piece, and it's always a little bit different.
It's always going to be different, whether it's better or not. It's just there might be something that you see in it that you're like, well, they got this part so much better than the last time I saw it, which I didn't even notice that part. And possibly I noticed it this time because the rest of it was shit. Exactly. But this part like nailed it this time. And there's so much. One of the great things about musicals is that they can be about anything. Like, and you're just like, what do you care? You've come to see singing and dancing. It's also about, I don't know, wrestling. It's going to be amazing. Right. And like I saw Mamma Mia. I tried to write a musical. I spent a couple of months going through these songs because I saw Mamma Mia. Mm-hmm. And I thought that Mamma Mia was super fun. and it was arbitrary. And the plot didn't have anything to do with those songs.
No.
But it was a good time. It looked like those old people were working their asses off.
Yes.
And as they climbed up a cliff on an island in Greece, and you're like, what is happening? Why have you made her Meryl Streep continue to walk up these stairs? Anyway, so but I thought it would be funny to take the album Air Supply's album with the balloon on the cover, which is, I think, one of their greatest hits. So it like has the most hits on it. And I was like, I think I could write a musical for Air Supply. And it turns out that album isn't re-listenable at all. So it was impossible for me to do. And I forced myself to listen to it for a couple of weeks. I was like, but what if this happened and it would be a love story and it would be this? It's like, I don't know how. Have you ever tried to write a musical?
I actually have written a musical, and it was produced in New York. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Tess Barker, what was it called? What was it about? Tell me more.
It's called Time Between Us, and it's a 2-person musical that I wrote with a composer. I wrote the book and lyrics for it. And it is about, we call it like Will and Grace meets the last 5 years. So it's about a gay guy and a straight girl. And it starts out with them like fresh out of college, wanting to have these like amazing dreams about what they're going to do with their lives, their amazing careers and this great family life. And then it's snapshots of them over the next 35 years.
Oh my God.
And you see like what they have to sacrifice in order to get certain things. And then sort of what happens to their friendship and, you know, the way that friendships actually do kind of like drift apart as you get older. Yeah. Yeah. And that show, we were very influenced by The Secret Garden. And I'm like a stand-up. So like, I think if you saw the show, you would not think a stand-up wrote it. It's like, it's piano, cello, people cry at the end. Yeah.
Right. And I think that when, like, that's my great fear about writing a novel is that it would be like the saddest thing in the world. And there would be no comedy, right?
Yeah.
Like, because my stand-up is stand-up, right? I could tell a story. I could pepper it with punchlines. There could be punchlines. There's a button. We all win. When I'm doing, it's like when you saw Robin Williams act. There's a well in, I think, and this is, you know, obviously I'm going to be prejudiced, but I think stand-up comics who go into acting have a chance to really do those sort of, not sad clown thing. I mean, that's too easy a definition, but there is a depth to when you have that perception of what to write material about. You are also editing out the tragedy around it, right? You're trying to you're trying to make it the coal into a diamond of, well, this is horrible, but then we all lived, right? Or whatever the punchline is. And
I mean, it all comes from like I think all comedians have pathos within us. Like the only thing that makes it funny is the punchlines. Like without that, it's pretty sad.
Right. Then it's a sad that then you could write an Oprah book of the week and it would be a slice of life that was just interesting, and the prose might be amazing. Yeah. But I think like if I wrote a musical or if I wrote a novel, I would want it to have a happy ending. It's, I mean, there's already so much tragedy all around us, you know, so it's a big, though I know that people find it cathartic. You know, I will occasionally read a romance novel that is super sad, and the misunderstanding couldn't be more basic. Like literally one decent conversation between these two people, and it would all work. But I will be like, no, her feelings are hurt. And I will just be sobbing as I'm reading a book, and it will be kind of cathartic. So I think that that's maybe what you can get out of like Les Mis or.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's catharsis. And I get really like turned on by just like truthful observation of humanity. So like, yes, it's sad, but I find that very like invigorating as well. And Sean, my husband, is the same way. Like he doesn't want to watch anything sad. Like, oh, that looks like a bummer. Unless it's about like war. I guess there's a caveat for war stuff, but.
Well, because people are facing their fears and then they're dying anyway, but they've at least faced their fears.
Yeah.
And that's not an irrational fear. Someone's shooting at you, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But is that catch-22? Yeah, you should be afraid. But yeah, I find it like I get really like hyped from that. And I mean, especially in a musical setting, like when someone has a really beautiful singing voice and they're singing about something sad,
Yeah,
I feel alive.
that's awesome. That's really cool. It's there's some of the songs in Hedwig because we saw it twice. I of course have several productions worth of like the Neil Patrick Harris.
Did you see it with Neil Patrick Harris?
I did not. I saw it with the original guy, and then I saw it with somebody else that was famous, and then I can't remember who. And then Andy wanted to go see it again because the lead was a woman.
Oh, they had out for a while. Ali Sheedy was doing it off Broadway.
Right. And it wasn't Ali Sheedy. He wanted to see the Ali Sheedy one, but then it was a different woman doing it. And he was like, I think that it would be a different play with a woman because we knew people's parts, right? We knew the dangle gender thing was going to be there when the nakedy came.
Yeah.
And it would change it in ways that were, yeah. Yeah, theater's great.
Isn't it? Well, I'm curious still because you saw the off-Broadway one, which is in a more intimate venue.
Mm-hmm.
And then you saw the Pantages one, which they staged that to be like a show.
No, we saw Pantages.
Okay,
and we saw New York in a
recently.
fancy.
So you didn't see it like it. Okay.
Like 4 or 5 years ago, we saw the New York one, and it was also at a Broadway theater.
Okay, because originally it was sort of a cabaret show. And
Right.
you would go into this, and it was very like pared down, and Hedwig would kind of come out. I never saw that production. So
Right, that sounds like something Bridget Everett should do.
Yes.
Like where you're just walking along, and then all of a sudden she shoved her boobs at your face,
Love
you're
that.
like, I sat in the back. I didn't need to motorboat Bridget Everett's boobs, so I'm good. Yeah, but Jess was the one that we saw in the small, in the tiny thing. So here's what I do want to talk about though, because this one I think is another Sondheim, is the last one on your list, and if we have time, we'll talk more. But what is Company?
Okay, so Company is a show that I am very familiar with the music to, but I've never actually been lucky enough to see. So I'm dying to see it.
Oh, wow.
They just changed up the casting on this one. Well, I'll tell you about the show stuff first before I tell you how they changed it. But so it's basically about this like single guy. The show opens up on his 35th birthday. And he's single, but he's like the guy who's got all these married friends and friends that are coupled up, but he's like the cool single guy who's always so it's a series of vignettes all about marriage with a single guy as the protagonist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he's our narrator. He's our perspective.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he's like, why would I want this? Why would I want this? But then like, it's Sondheim, and it's most people think of Company. It premiered in 1970.
Okay.
And most people think of Company as the beginning of Sondheim's genius period, because after this he writes Into the Woods, Sweeney Todd, all that stuff.
Okay.
And it's just it's very grounded, unlike Sweeney Todd or Into the Woods. It's not fantastical at all. It takes place in New York in the 70s.
Right.
And it's just about like relationships and life and living in the city. But I mean, the lyrics are just like gut wrenching, but beautiful. And it's written by a gay man, but he just nails what it is to be like married.
Yeah.
It's by someone who's never been married, who's never had any of that. I mean, and it's just these beautiful, beautiful lyrics that are like,
and how old is he in 1970?
let's see. He was probably like 40.
Okay. So
Yeah.
he had seen some things. He had seen plenty, and he had been he might have even been in relationships. I wasn't. I had my first relationship when I was 39.
Wow.
But but he was probably an adult human.
You know, I learned after he died that he married for the first time like 2 years before he died.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he was such a workaholic, but I don't know. Maybe he had like a long-term boyfriend here or there, but I kind of think he was just like always kind of like in his apartment, like frantically writing music and lyrics until 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right. And then probably hanging out with somebody if he needed to get a tune-up.
Exactly.
Yeah. which
Yeah.
was a good portion of my life. So it was not as glamorous, probably, but that's because the word tune-up, that nobody's having glamorous sex with that word. Anyway,
Hopefully there's at least oil.
yes, there was a lube job, and boom, and but so okay, so it's just a series of vignettes about other people's relationships as this guy looks at it.
Yeah.
And how does, I mean, spoiler alert, 1970, not going to worry about it. How does it end?
It ends with this incredible song called Being Alive, which I really recommend you YouTube or listen to. I mean, the lyrics in this song gut me every time. But it kind of ends with him having this epiphany about like, oh yeah, this is what marriage is, but he doesn't end up with anyone or anything.
Right. It just
has a very ambivalent ending. Yeah. But I actually am not familiar with apparently the book, which Stevenson, that's what we call the in-between part where there's no meaning.
Right. The book is actually the lyrics and music, right? Is that
the book is just when they're talking and there's nothing.
Oh, it's like the script?
Yeah. And then lyrics is obviously lyrics. So the book is like when there's no music underneath it and it's just there's not all musicals are book musicals. Some musicals are completely sung through. Like Hamilton is a sung through musical. There's no part,
it is
just like a scene.
Yeah, there's no chatting. It's just they always sing to each other.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, another company also has this really great song, Elaine Stritch. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
She was in the original Broadway cast. And that's another example. She's got this song called Ladies Who Lunch.
Okay.
And
which he made up the term ladies whose lunch, essentially? Sondheim did?
That you'd have to fact check me on. I'm not sure that he made that up, but he certainly made it famous.
He made it famous in 1970.
Yeah.
So
it's this woman who's really bitter, kind of like going off about high society women and how ridiculous their lives are. But again, it's not a pretty song. And by the end of it, she's screaming. I mean, like, it's not, there's nothing pretty about it, but it's so honest. And it's such a smart song. And it's so funny and so nuanced and just fantastic. I love it. To me, in a musical, like, I'd always rather have you be a better actor than anything else.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, there's some musical people that just have gorgeous voices, but if you don't have the acting chops to like bring that honesty, it doesn't hit in the same way.
I would see Hugh Jackman in Oklahoma. I bet you he's amazing.
Exactly.
In that. Yeah. And I was surprised when, I was always like, I was slightly obsessed with Hamilton when everyone was. And I remember listening to it going, it's interesting that Lin-Manuel Miranda would book people that have better voices than he does.
Yeah.
Like, because his voice is great, but it is not the guy who played Burr.
Leslie Odom Jr. I couldn't live in that guy's voice.
Yeah, that guy's voice is a stick of butter.
Yeah.
That guy is just like it is a canoe on a still lake. It is a beautiful thing. And on a sunny day, but not too sunny. It's almost a perfect voice as far as I can tell. And I agree. It makes sense that the acting, even if the singing isn't like, there's probably someone who sings better, but if the acting chops have to be equal,
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like my partner and I, whenever we put up our show, that's like our first thing is like when we're casting, like, can they act?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah, it was Ron Funches told me that he's been taking voice lessons because he's getting cast as these he gets cast a lot as cartoon characters because of his voice. And then they're like, can you sing in that character's voice? And he's like, probably. And so he's had to learn. He's had to take some classes on singing in different, if he's doing a character, how to keep that character. So it's like an acting and singing lesson all in one.
That sounds really, really difficult.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
To be able to keep your pitch and everything and still have like this affect to your voice. And
right. And still be the I don't know, the mouse.
Yeah.
And you're like, you are also a shark. And because did you see Evan Hansen?
I didn't, and this is controversial, but I didn't like. I'll see anything. So like, if I had gotten a ticket or whatever, I would have gone.
Sure.
I didn't connect with the music or like what I know of the story.
Right. I think I'm wrong because I didn't. There was a when I listened to it, I was like, wait, is this white kid lying through his teeth?
Yeah.
And I was just like, what am I missing? And I think I'm missing that he's slightly autistic is what I think I'm supposed to get out of this.
It?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that there's another layer to that character that isn't obvious just from the soundtrack. So, but there's a couple of great songs in it.
There are great songs in it. And I could tell it's a fun show. I think this is just me being old, but like, I feel like I'm a little put off. Isn't there some kind of a social media element to the show?
Entirely.
Yeah, see, I think that puts me off.
Right. And what about The Waitress?
Oh, okay. The Waitress?
Which I've never seen, and I don't even know what it is.
That's actually based on an indie movie that I think came out like in the early aughts that Kerry Russell is in.
Okay. The movie came first?
The movie came first, and it like was not a big movie. And tragically, actually, the writer-director of that movie was murdered in her apartment, but that's a whole other thing.
Right. That's what I think I
remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the music in Waitress is fantastic. And in particular, there's this Tony's performance of the ballad from Waitress called She Used to Be Mine.
Okay.
Again, I get chills thinking about this. You want to talk about acting? This is about, it's written as though it's like a love song of this woman who's like lost a romantic interest, but you realize she's singing because she's pregnant, and she's like singing this like mournful love song about her former self before she was pregnant.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's Good Night, New York. It's like
right. As you were telling that story, I went miscarriage, and you're like, no, she used to not have a pregnancy.
Yeah.
And
it's like so real and so honest and so heartbreaking and beautiful. And like, this is all the stuff I like.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's so what I'm going to do for sure is I'm going to look up the Elaine Stritch Being Alive version to listen to that.
Elaine Stritch is Ladies Who Lunch.
Being
that's
Alive
right. Is in the same show though. Being Alive.
It's in the same show as In Company. So it's Ladies Who Lunch. Pardon me while I make a note. Because I do want to hear that as well. And then I'm going to look up this, the Waitress, the Tony Awards version.
Yes. Jessie Mueller is the actress's name.
The Gypsy, there was, my brother was just telling me something about Rosalind Russell buying the rights so that the swimmer, someone who played it on Broadway couldn't be in the movie.
Really?
Yeah, that there was some drama between the stage production and the Hollywood production, and Rosalind Russell didn't want the woman who did the stage production, or the other way around. Is
it Patti LuPone?
No, I'm trying to. Hey Siri, who played Gypsy? See what happens there. Oh, which one? No, You're not wrong, Gypsy. You're not wrong, Siri. Did you know that if you say to Siri, hey Siri, Lumos, it'll turn your flashlight on?
Really?
Yeah. And if you say, hey Siri, Knox, it'll turn it off.
That's adorable.
It is adorable.
Thank you for that, Jackie. That's
you're welcome. I just heard that myself.
I'm always like, what do I?
Where is it? Where is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you just talk to your phone and ask them if your Siri's turned on, it'll do it with the Harry Potter thing, which is fun.
That's adorable. I'll have to tell my nieces about that as well.
Exactly. And so I might try Les Mis. Les Mis seems a little night music though. I might do a little night music.
Jackie, Les Mis. Okay, but you mentioned Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
I would think a good entry point would be the movie version that he was in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I like Hugh Jackman. I love Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
For he is huge. And okay, I'll give that a shot. And then other than that, and maybe the Secret Garden. I'll look into because Mandy Patinkin probably there's probably you said that was the original cast recording?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll try that. And it's been an hour, I should just tell you. But I'm recapping all the things I learned here at the end of this particular Dork Forest.
Well, you were right. This went very fast.
It did go very fast because I like it too, but I don't know enough about it. So I love this insight into it. And it's just it's fun to talk about for an hour.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you, Tess Barker, for being on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, Rangers of the Dork Forest, know that it's Testify Barker. Listen to Lady, find Toxic and listen to that. And maybe, email me if you found some errors in the things I said. Jackie at JackieKation.com. It's always fun for people to tell me, ooh, you're right, but you're also wrong.
Oh,
and you're like,
God.
and you are right as well. I am sometimes wrong.
Yes.
All right. Where should people, this is going to go up on the middle of January. Anything anyone should look for you?
Yeah, I post all my shows on Twitter, Testify Barker, like you already said, Instagram. My website's tessbarker.com.
There you go.
Those are good places.
Now you know. Thanks for doing the show.
Thank you.
And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?